meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature has half an hour ago. Mexican officials closed the border in the line of so many U.S. refugees.
We prepare to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting it on camera? What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes! A twister!
This is just massive.
Breaking news, a deadly fireball over northern China, so powerful it leveled part of Tianjin city and knocked people to the ground kilometers away from the blast site.
Is moving. That water is rushing. It is really fast, grabs your attention, but you know what? The flood is so unbelievable that it takes away from the huge hail that you see in the picture right there.
I was going to say, it looks almost like snow, but it's summer.
And according to local media, passing truck drivers helped the couple access the vehicle on Tuesday, and a digger arrived to try and clear the thick mud around it. Heavy rainstorms over the weekend caused widespread flooding and a number of mudslides across much of the region.
Moving. That water is rushing. It is really fast, grabs your attention, but you know what? The flood is so unbelievable that it takes away from the huge hail that you see in the picture right there.
I was going to say, it looks almost like snow, but
I know.
it's summer
It's
there.
not. It's not snow. It is hail. That is for sure. It does look like snow. You know, over the last week or so, they picked up roughly 5 inches of rain. That's not a lot, but in this specific area of Colorado, they've had a lot of fires over the past couple of years, so the soil isn't very porous. It keeps the water from seeping down into the ground, and that does make for some dangerous conditions, as you can see. Now, when it comes to flooding, here are the facts that I want you to know. It takes 6 inches of swiftly moving water to knock you off your feet. It takes a foot to move a really small vehicle, 18 inches, or half a foot and a half, to move large vehicles. Once you get up to 2 feet of swiftly moving water, you know what? Almost all vehicles will float.
Take a look at this nasty dust storm rolling through Phoenix, Arizona early on Tuesday afternoon. I mean, yeah, that's pretty serious business. It's not only the dust that's blinding, but the wind can also cause wind damage in these things. So you might be wondering, how does a dust storm actually form, and how did this one form? Well, it wasn't from a storm that was actually right over the area where that video was from, okay? It was from a storm that was kind of farther away. It created a gust front, and basically just because there was dust on the ground and there was a lot of wind together, you end up with that, okay? So look at it from a different angle. If you're out ahead of the gust front, that's when you're out ahead of the dust storm. That's exactly what's going on when you see this situation. Now, in this case, we're going to look at the radar, and you can see the gust front itself. You can see the dust storm itself. It was moving from southeast toward the north and west. You see that almost bow-shaped thing? It's some of the lighter colors. The heavier colors there are rain, but look for the light stuff. Really interesting stuff, and pretty nasty as well.
Officials say the helicopter crashed while attempting a hard deck landing aboard a U.S. naval ship about 30 kilometers east of Okinawa. The injured have been transported to a nearby U.S. naval hospital for treatment. Japan's government has demanded an investigation into the incident. It comes as Tokyo begins talks with Okinawa's governor over contentious plans to relocate a U.S. Marine Air Base to a less crowded part of the island of Okinawa. Residents of Okinawa have long objected to the tens of thousands of U.S. troops and the U.S. military installations on that island.
This is why we're always concerned about seeing a lot of rain come down all at once. The streets in Buenos Aires, Argentina have turned into rivers. Very serious scenario. At least 3 people have died as a result of the significant flooding, and more than 11,000 people have been told they need to evacuate by government officials. Now, we saw more than a foot of rain fall in just a few days, and compare that to the average for the entire month of August, where they typically only see just a couple of inches. Argentina is a big producer of soybeans, corn, and wheat, and there is concern this really could affect the upcoming wheat crop.
Four people have been rescued and sent to hospital, with 40 still missing after a landslide at a mine in Shanyang County in Changuo City. Doctors say the 4 rescued are all in stable condition. The landslide brought down 1 million cubic metres of rock and earth onto 15 dorm rooms and 3 houses of the Wuzhou Mining Company. The local government has already mobilised rescue teams, including policemen, firefighters and medical workers. Residents living nearby have been evacuated, and relevant departments are looking into the cause of the accident.
German couple stranded for several days in northern Chile after the motorhome they were traveling in was partially buried by a mudslide. Couple's been camping out next to the motorhome as they wait for assistance.
Yeah, that's never a good time. And according to local media, passing truck drivers helped the couple access the vehicle on Tuesday, and a digger arrived to try and clear the thick mud around it. Heavy rain storms over the weekend caused widespread flooding and a number of mudslides across much of the region.
Inspectors will be on the scene today of a ceiling collapse at a popular music venue in Minneapolis. Several people were hurt during a concert last night. Ashley Roberts of our Minneapolis station, WCCO, is outside the First Avenue Club. Ashley, good morning.
Good morning. This could have been a lot worse. This music venue has been a staple of the Minneapolis music scene for more than 40 years. But on Wednesday night, that scene turned from rock and roll to chaos. Debris from the ceiling rained down on concert goers in Minneapolis Wednesday night before a stunned crowd of nearly 1,000 people. People ran toward the club's exit as the building was immediately evacuated. 2 people were rushed to the hospital and a number of others received minor injuries.
And all of a sudden some of the ceiling came down and hit myself. One girl we were helping outside there was knocked unconscious and she was hit on the left side of her forehead. The other one, she was totally buried, and we got her out of there and got her away from the ceiling.
Sources say there was a leak in the ceiling of the concert hall, and likely the reverberations from the band caused the ceiling section to collapse.
I'm like pushing people out of the way.
It was pretty chaotic because then they sounded the fire alarm, so there's lights flashing.
First Ave is a legendary music venue. Prince made it his regular gig in the 80s. It even served as the set for his 1984 movie, Purple Rain. First Avenue will be closed today as officials inspect the structural integrity of the building. Charlie?
Found 7 pieces which we established that they were not a part of the airplane. And further investigation gives us now the conclusion that it's probably is part of a missile system and of a Buk missile system.
The chief investigator added the next step is to establish whether this could be the missile system which downed MH17. Prosecutors said on Tuesday they would enlist the help of weapons and forensics experts to establish the origins of the parts. Experts and Western governments have accused rebels of shooting down the passenger aircraft. Moscow says it was hit by a Ukrainian fighter jet rocket. Russia also vetoed a Dutch-led proposal to establish a UN tribunal last month. MH17 crashed over territory held by Ukrainian rebels in July 2014, killing all 298 people on board, most of whom were Dutch citizens.
Breaking news, a deadly fireball over northern China, so powerful it leveled part of Tianjin city and knocked people to the ground kilometers away from the blast site. Chemical cargo somehow caught fire, erupting in a mushroom cloud, and then a fiery shockwave that incinerated cars and shattered windows. CCTV's Sing Juming is in Tianjin and joins us from just inside the evacuation zone. What are you seeing there?
Hi, Mike. I'm currently just 5 kilometers from the explosion site, and actually, as I arrive closer to the explosion site, here I'm just 5 kilometers from here. I can see huge smog rising from the explosion scene. It means that the fire hasn't been put out yet, and it's been 7 hours since the fire broke out. And currently, the sun is rising against the sky, but the smog is shadowing some part of it. And as I'm riding from places to the center, I can see because in the neighborhood there are some industrial factories here, and I can see that the building has been damaged. The glasses are broken, and all those kind of things can see it quite shockingly. And I see some people walking on the streets only with their underwear on because they evacuate from their dormitory. You know, this place is an industrial zone, so they have the dormitories for factory workers. And some of the workers, they're walking on the streets only with their underwear on. And they are evacuating from the building. And I can see that all the glasses in certain walls of the building has been all broken. And you can see shattered glasses covering the ground. And currently the scene, I didn't smell anything dangerous kind of thing. And they are still putting out fire using sand and earth instead of water because in the zone, actually, it's some chemical burning at the moment. It's very dangerous to put out a fire with water, so they use it using sand and earth at the moment.
Juming, we're looking at live pictures now of the scene, as you said, daylight now, and we see there's this thick column of smoke. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the difficulty of fighting this fire? You talked about how they can't use water on it, so I suspect it's probably going to take them quite some time to put it out as we continue to see there's just this huge cloud of smoke.
Yeah, the huge cloud of smoke is actually still rising from the scene, and I can see because the local authorities have shut down all the gas stations in the neighborhood to avoid further explosions. And we know that the first explosion is happening at a warehouse that's containing all those kind of dangerous chemicals, and it broke into a fire, and then it triggered a second massive explosion. So both of the explosions are so massive that people as far as 10 kilometers away from the scene can still feel the shock. And earlier we know that within 10 kilometers radius area, all the residents have been evacuated. So as I'm moving inside the zone, it's very empty street, and you can see security guards and police forces have all those kind of restricted signs that forbid people from entering in. And one of the shocking thing is because of the chemicals they are burning, so it's difficult to contain. So one solution is the firefighters, they decided to let the chemicals burn, and then they can rescue more people that are believed to be trapped inside a factory building next to the explosion site.
I've heard some, we're now hearing that there are 14 now confirmed dead. I've heard some accounts saying that people felt as though it was an earthquake. The sliding glass doors, as you mentioned, blown out quite a distance from the actual site. We're looking at the video again from earlier. This has got to be an overwhelming problem for hospitals dealing with the hundreds of people streaming into the hospitals. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the hospitals are actually flooded at the very early hours of the accident took place. And I've been talking to some hospitals, and they say that they have over 400 injuries admitted by 2 or 3 hours ago. And most of them are injured because of the cuts of all those kind of glasses. So it's, but some of the people are injured because of the burning they suffer from the explosion. And for the 13 people dead, there are 2 firefighters went missing at their early stage of explosion. And among them, and the other 11, I believe, currently I cannot verify the fact, but there are some workers working in a factory, working in a warehouse when the explosion took place. So currently, the hospital across Tianjin-Binhai district are filled with patients.
The blast rocked Tianjin shortly before midnight local time. That's a little more than 9 hours ago. Now, according to China's Seismological Bureau, there were 2 explosions. We'll see those in the videos coming up, measuring 2.3 and 2.9 in magnitude. You can see. What?
我操！这大半夜的干什么？吓死了！我操！什么玩意儿爆炸了呀？都他妈震住！
You can see them there really shaking up the city and really shocking the people who were filming them. It appears that the first explosion may have triggered the second one, perhaps because of the contents involved. Tianjin serves as a base for refining and petrochemicals. This, we understand, was at a port that may have contained flammable contents. Now, several multinationals do business there in Tianjin's port, including U.S. giant Dow Chemicals and China's Sinopec. Last year, you may recall, Russian state energy giant Rosneft inked a deal with PetroChina for a petrochemical processing plant in Tianjin. So a lot of activity there in that port area, also a lot of it close to a residential area. Tianjin is a densely populated city of some 15 million people. It's the 4th or 5th largest city in China, depending exactly on how you count and how much of the district you bring in. It's an important port city for China's northeast hub. It's been that way since the 19th century, and in terms of business and livelihood, its economy is very closely connected with Beijing, some 100 kilometers northwest. Many Chinese often commute between these 2 major cities, so that may likely have an impact that goes beyond the city itself, and we'll get a clearer picture as Beijing wakes up this morning.
Roy, one would think this is an anomaly, but this would not be actually the first big chemical blast in China in recent years, would it?
It's not, Mike. In November of 2013, an explosion of an oil pipeline in Shandong province left more than 50 people dead. 6 of those dead were firefighters working for Sinopec, which owned the pipeline. Just 6 months later, a blast at a chemical plant in Jiangsu province in the east of China, and a fire that followed left 5 people dead and several injured. And then just a year later, in April of this year, a blast at a chemical plant in Fujian province left 1 person dead. The explosion hit part of an oil storage facility in an independent petrochemical producer. And there have been others, Mike. China has repeatedly vowed to investigate and to put in place greater safety measures following each of those blasts.
All right, thanks so much, Roy. And Xing Juming is in Tianjin, and he joins us now on the phone. He's been there for us all day. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
I'm currently just 500 meters from the explosion site at the very gate of the Tianjin port where the explosion took place. And I look around, there are many firefighter trucks and firefighters working, and you can see heavy smoke coming out from the explosion site. And I can see many containers here lying one by one and layer by layer at the port. And from here, I can see some checkpoints, and even the gate of the Tianjin port has some severe damages. You can see glasses are falling down, and frames of the windows detached from the walls. And currently the smoke is heavy, and here at just 500 meters from the explosion site, I can smell the burning scent very, very strongly. And currently we are still looking forward to when this massive fire will be put out.
And it is still burning. We're still seeing the smoke billowing into the air. Give us a sense of these storage containers. You mentioned them. We're looking at them, and I've seen some of the images where they've been basically, it looks as though they've been thrown like toothpicks into the water, very badly damaged. I guess it gives you an indication of just the significance of this blast, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. Currently, the firefighters cannot use water to put out the fire. They can only use earth and sand, and the explosion is very strong. And just now, I've been talking with some injured workers. I went to a residential compound that houses 10,000 migrant workers working in this area, and some of the people just get injured and they get hurt, and some even get fractured. But some of them are just walking on the street with their underwear down, because when they're rushing out, it's 11 o'clock p.m. in Beijing time. So they have little time to prepare, and they left some of their personal belongings at their apartment. And some of them even didn't have a chance to contact with their family members to tell them that they are currently safe.
Zhou-Ming, one of the things, I guess, when you think about it, one of the blessings, if you can say that, is that this happened late at night, and people were obviously trying to sleep, but weren't at work. It probably could have been even worse, but even so, we're still talking about hundreds of people flooding into the hospitals. Any idea how many people we're talking about, and how significant is that?
Currently, we don't have the exact number. I've been following the scene, and we've been told that currently there are 70 people confirmed that, and 32 people are in critical condition. But I talked with some of the people getting hurt, and many of them are not suffering from burning, and they are mostly just suffering from the cuts from the explosion. That a lot of things are falling from the ceiling and falling from the furniture, and the glass are broken. So currently, I wasn't available to tell you more about the situation at the hospital, but I'm going to get you updated on this as soon as possible.
And again, really no timetable on when this fire may be out.
Currently, we cannot tell. The closer that I came to see, the more smoke that I can see. And from this perspective, from this angle, it is even heavier than 3 hours ago when I first come to 5 kilometers from the scene. And currently, the firefighters are working their best efforts to try to put out the fire. And before there is a solution that in order to let all the chemicals burn and completely burn, and then it will be easier for them to put out the fire, the massive fire.
Currently, I'm standing at a residential compound at this place, and it's just about 2 kilometers from the explosion site. And I've talked with some of the people living here. This residential compound houses over 10,000 workers here, and as you can see from here, after the explosion, there are a lot of personal belongings scattered on the ground. And this is the first floor, and this is 2 kilometers from the explosion site, and you can still see the things that once was in the room and was pouring out at the places. And you can see this is the first floor, and the frames are just totally detached from the wall, and you can see all the glasses are broken, and the personal belongings inside are in a chaos, and a lot of glasses are on the ground. And many of the people I've talking to, when the first explosion took place, actually many people are just injured from these cuts, and some people have fractures, and when they are rushing out, most of them are wearing only underwear because they have nowhere to go. Some of them have returned to this compound, but they are not allowed to get their personal belongings, including their mobile phones. So currently, many of the workers living here in this compound cannot get contact with their family members to say they are currently safe. And I'm also talking to some managers here. They are going to relocate these workers from this compound and find a safer place to accommodate them. And after this, I don't know where this is going, and this compound is really in a mess.
哎呦我去你妈！看这俩车。哎呦我操你妈！哎呦我操你妈！这人全都受伤了。